The Kavanagh, have you got a moment?
Not now, Tom. We'll have to wait till Monday.
Was the last in the present series of Kavanagh QC. A book to accompany the series is available, priced at £4.99 and published by Pan.
Doctors think they're God, don't they? Some of them.
A new round of drama for Tuesday nights and a team with more trouble than they can handle.
You're getting too personal.
Next week we could have an outbreak on our hands.
Won't it be next? Bubonic plague?
Yeah. Would you like in confined spaces?
I've never considered this. Losing him?
A new series of Peak Practice begins next Tuesday at 9 on Central.
Bittersweet Drama returns next Tuesday on Central in September Song at 8:30.
A Rover 214 SEI with 7-spoke alloy wheels, electric front windows, remote control alarm, sports seats with Silverstone leather trim, from just £11,635. How do they do it?
When this woman makes soups, she only uses the finest hand-picked ingredients, Highland water, fresh vegetables, and herbs that bring out the true taste of the soup. And only when she's completely happy with a recipe will Ina Baxter put her name to it. Baxter's Soups, from the family of fine foods.
There is no tougher test on your hands than working in the coldest and roughest of conditions. But through long experience, Arctic fishermen have learned how to look after their hands. Neutrogena hand cream is clinically proven to give immediate relief, and it can also work for you. Neutrogena, hard-working hand cream for hard-working hands.
A daily 10-minute soak in Steradent keeps dentures clean, helps keep gums happy.
Have you seen my razor?
I think it's on the cabinet.
Okay, whose is that?
It's nothing to do with me.
What do you think you're playing at?
Well, it's not mine. Don't look at me.
I thought we told you to be careful.
John, I think we're the ones who should have been careful.
There may be trouble ahead, but while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, let's face the music and dance.
If your family suddenly grows, so too will your responsibilities. That's why Allied Dunbar financial plans adapt, so you can face the unexpected.
Let's face the music and dance.
Allied Dunbar, for the life you don't yet know.
It's a race against time. The killer must be found.
I don't take lives, I save them. I didn't kill either of them. Why should I? I want out.
Michael, you're not to blame. Oh, my God.
Just get me in there. Leave the rest to me.
Let's get this sorted out once and for all.
Taggart, Wednesday at 9 on Central.
Now on Central, it's a little after 10 o'clock. Time for the news from ITN.
From ITN, News at 10 with Trevor McDonald.
Gas chief says, I'm worth £1,000 a day. Restrictions on drinking on Sundays to be lifted. Myra Hindley gets her wish to undergo hypnosis. And the crowded holiday jet that could only turn right. Good evening. The British Gas Chief Executive Cedric Brown appeared before a committee of MPs today to defend his salary of £475,000 a year. He said it was right for the company, adding that he knew of at least 50 chief executives earning more. The Labour leader Tony Blair said today what Mr Brown and other privatised utility bosses were getting was like hitting the national lottery jackpot week after week after week at the public's expense. Our political editor Michael Brunston reports.
Labour is making the most of the issue of top people's pay as Dr James Smith, the chairman of Eastern Electricity, arrived to be grilled by our Commons Committee. MPs were still savouring the explosive question time exchanges on the matter. Tony Blair said Labour took the side not of boardroom...
I'm sorry, we'll have to come back to that report. Problem with the film there. The Prime Minister announced plans tonight to scrap all the special Sunday drinking restrictions in England and Wales. Mr Major said now that we had Sunday trading, there was no logic in them. Vernon Mann has this report.
Mr Major said tonight the present liquor laws were absurd, out-of-date, patronising, government-knows-best restrictions. He planned to sweep them away. Soon, pubs won't have to close between 3 and 7 on Sundays. Supermarkets will be able to sell liquor throughout their 6 Sunday opening hours, and small off-licences will be able to sell alcohol from 10 in the morning until 10:30 at night. Brewers and publicans welcomed the announcement.
It is simply a move towards common sense, it's a move towards helping tourism, it's a move to promoting family leisure, family outings and family togetherness on a Sunday afternoon.
Keep Sundays special campaigners vowed to fight on.
It may be that in 5, 10, 15 years' time, when people begin to realise that people's relationships are more important than money, than simply commercialising Sunday in the interests of big business was not the right way to go, that we might see some change in legislation, but obviously it won't be in the near future.
As might be expected, the forthcoming changes were welcomed by pub-goers. It's all happened in the past couple of years. Sunday shopping, Sunday banking, Sunday racing, soon Sunday betting, and now a complete relaxation of Sunday liquor laws. It would seem the great traditional British Sunday has finally and officially been declared dead. Vernon Mann, News at 10, Central London.
And we can now go back to that story about the British Gas Chief Executive's defence of his salary. Michael Brunston reports.
Labour is making the most of the issue of top people's pay as Dr James Smith, the chairman of Eastern Electricity, arrived to be grilled by our Commons Committee. MPs were still savouring the explosive question time exchanges on the matter. Tony Blair said Labour took the side not of boardroom bosses, but of ordinary people.
And those people struggling to pay their bills, worried about their living standards, are fed up with the same small group of people playing the boardroom equivalent of the national lottery and awarding themselves huge pay increases, hitting the jackpot week after week after week at the public's expense.
Congratulations on that from his fellow frontbenchers. But Mr Major said Labour was still wedded to the politics of envy.
All the right honourable gentleman is doing is milking prejudice and exposing the fact that the Labour Party have not changed.
At the Employment Committee hearing, the Chief Executive of British Gas, salary $475,000 after his latest rise, said it was the rate for the job.
One of the companies that we compete with increasingly around the world, a company who are a fraction the size of British Gas, their chief executive, an American company, and their chief executive is paid 10 times what I'm paid.
But no regrets about all this, said the committee chairman.
I've said what we would have done. I would have announced this at the time that it was decided.
If you had your time over again, you would not do it in that way, would you?
I would have handled it and announced it differently.
You could possibly say no, you wouldn't handle it the same way, would you?
Yes, that's right.
This morning, Mr. Brown wrote to all gas workers, but at a research centre near Newcastle, they're losing their jobs.
The shareholder should have a say in it. I'm a shareholder, nobody's asked my opinion.
All they've done is just inherited the job. You know, they haven't really made the British gas progress at all.
So companies and shareholders may change the way that they do things. And that's the direction that the Chancellor and the Prime Minister would like things to go, as they made clear today. However, Labour serve notice that unless the companies get their acts together, they may well introduce legislation to regulate these matters. Michael Brunson, News at 10, Westminster.
An extraordinary attempt to answer one of the saddest questions left by the Moors murders was authorised tonight by the Prisons Minister, Michael Forsyth. He said he would allow Myra Hindley to be hypnotised to see if it would help pinpoint where Keith Bennett was buried. He was 12 when he was murdered. Here's our Home Affairs correspondent, Harry Smith.
It's 8 years since Myra Hindley went back to Saddleworth Moor in a failed attempt to guide police to the grave of one of her victims. Now she could be back again, but only after undergoing hypnosis that may reveal memories hidden deep in her mind. The decision to allow Hindley to be hypnotised was taken by Prisons Minister Michael Forsyth after a personal plea by the mother of Keith Bennett. He was just 12 when he was murdered. His mother said after her meeting at the Home Office she won't rest until her son has a Christian burial.
I've had 30 years of it, nearly 31 years, and as I said to the Minister, even if it doesn't happen, I'm going to still carry on fighting for him, because that's the main asset in my life now, is finding him and having him buried.
But one doctor experienced in hypnotising witnesses says the technique doesn't have a high success rate.
I've been called in a number of times on murder cases and rape cases by the police, but even though one of the subjects was deep tranced and he had quite an amount of recall for an event of about 10 years ago, it added up to nothing in the end. This is not to say that they should not try, but my own experience and my reading around the subject suggests that not a great deal will come of it.
Hindley will have a psychological examination within the next few weeks before any hypnosis. That'll take place at Cookham Prison in Kent. Depending on the results, doctors will then begin to probe her memory of the horrific events which ended on Saddleworth Moor 30 years ago.
The government responded today to the support mobilised for Private Lee Clegg, the paratrooper jailed for life for killing a joyrider in Northern Ireland. The Home Secretary announced a review of the law of murder as it applies to the armed services. And the Prime Minister talked about the possible release of Private Clegg under licence. Our political correspondent Hugh Pym reports.
The shots fired into this car and the death of a Belfast joyrider led to a murder charge against a British paratrooper. But the law which was used in the original trial to convict Private Lee Clegg is now under review. Should it have been manslaughter? A question raised at his appeal and a question acknowledged today by Michael Howard, as he said he'd examine the law of murder as it affected the armed forces. In the Commons, Paddy Ashdown condemned Private Clegg's life sentence.
This is the moment for him to be released under licence and the law changed.
Release on licence was possible, said Mr Major. Normal procedures were being observed.
This will include consultations with the trial judge and with the Lord Chief Justice of Northern Ireland, and will take into account the nature of the offence. I know that my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, will ensure that this process is undertaken both effectively and with due care.
But as Private Clegg's parents heard that more than 200,000 callers to ITV's This Morning programme felt he should be released, some in Northern Ireland argued the crime must be punished.
Now, if that happened in Birmingham or Bristol rather than in Belfast, what would people in those cities be saying? I would think they would say that that patrol and members of that patrol were guilty of criminal offences.
The government knows it must tread very carefully to avoid inflaming opinion at a delicate stage in the Northern Ireland peace process. But it's now under intense pressure from its own backbenchers, and today's signals from ministers are being read as good news by those who want an early release for Private Clegg. Hugh Pym, News at 10, Westminster.
President Bill Clinton goes before the American Congress in less than 4 hours' time to make his third State of the Union address. It's going to be a difficult one. Somehow, the president must find common ground with the Republicans, who now control both houses of Congress, without forfeiting any more Democrat support. Over now to Washington and to our correspondent, Bill Neely.
Well, here at the Capitol tonight, it's Daniel in the lion's den. Bill Clinton is poised to make the most important speech of his presidency. Those aren't my words, they're those of his chief of staff. Bill Clinton is in trouble and he's desperate for a way out.
Gone is the warm embrace of friends. Democrats behind him, Democrats before him, the presidential finger scolding.
Veto.
Tonight he faces a new and hostile Congress, and he'd better watch his back too.
We're not going to start by picking a fight on the things we don't agree on.
A Republican Speaker, Newt Gingrich, will be there, watching Bill Clinton struggle to hold his ground. Mr. Clinton this week began signing into law the ideas of a Republican Congress. Tonight, he has to come up with some of his own to win back a middle class that has all but deserted him.
If he does well, he'll have a chance.
And if he doesn't?
If he doesn't, I guess he should pack up and go back to Arkansas.
He could come back, but as far as being an effective president for the rest of this term, he's in serious trouble.
So it's back to basics for Bill Clinton. Gone is the left-wing talk of 2 years ago.
Tonight I want to talk with you about what government can do, because I believe government must do more.
Enter the new Clinton leaning right.
My simple belief is that in this time, we know that the government cannot really solve problems for people.
The new Clinton who shoots ducks with the working white men he'll try to win over tonight with promises of tax cuts, welfare reform and great days ahead.
It will come out all right in the end if we stand up for what is right.
Bill Clinton's party is demoralized, divided and in debt. His task, as he puts the finishing touches to his speech, is not just to inspire the country, but to lift his party and himself from a mess of his own making. And here tonight will be two senior and very disillusioned Democrats. They are now considering challenging Mr. Clinton to be the party's nominee for the next presidential election. The vultures are circling. This is Bill Neely for News at 10, live at the Capitol.
In Los Angeles, the prosecution has opened the case against the former American football star OJ Simpson by portraying him as a violent man who killed his wife because of extreme jealousy. The judge ruled that Simpson himself would not be allowed to address the jury in the defense's opening statement. From Los Angeles, Michael Nicholson reports.
OJ Simpson is one of this country's greatest sporting legends. He was hugely popular. Today, the prosecution portrayed him as a jealous husband, a vicious wife-beater, and a double murderer.
Now, we will show you the other side of the smiling face, the one you never saw on camera, the one none of us ever wanted to see.
The second prosecution counsel described how Simpson frequently beat his wife, Nicole.
Nicole came running out of the darkness, wearing nothing but sweatpants and a bra, running toward the officers. She was covered with mud, and she was dirty, and she was filthy, and she ran toward the officers. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me.
Earlier, Simpson's defense had asked the judge, Lance Ito, to allow Simpson to address the jury. The prosecution objected.
It's going to give him the ability to limp up to the jury box, get close to the jury, and try and impress them with his physical presence.
It's just the opposite.
It is only a blatant attempt to impress the jury with his charisma and star appeal.
It is just the opposite. We do not want this jury to view the defendant in terms of a celebrity. We want them to view him as a human being.
In another exchange, Simpson's defense wanted certain police evidence denied. They accused Detective Mark Furman of planting a blooded glove in Simpson's garden, motivated, they say, by race hatred.
We have the right to ask him, and by the way, haven't you said on past occasions that you are in favor of genocide? Because what he really said was, let's put them all in a pile and burn them all. And I haven't heard that come from anyone since Adolf Hitler.
Tomorrow, it's the defense turn to portray their face of O.J. Simpson, and they promise some surprises. Michael Nicholson, News at 10, Los Angeles.
Still to come on News at 10 tonight, Stuck in the Sky, how a plane full of holidaymakers could only fly in circles. Looking after the disabled, the young carers who give up their own childhood. And selling off Parliament, why the Speaker would take to the barricades.
At the end, I would defend this building with my last breath.
No, no, no. You don't love me, and I know now. No, no, no. You don't love me,
Now you can reduce the appearance of wrinkles in just 2 weeks. Created by Laboratoire Garnier Paris, new wrinkle lift from Synergy. Extracted from sunflowers, natural hydroxyceramides are concentrated in a high-performance cream. Immediately your skin is smoothed, giving the look of a mild lifting effect, and after just 2 weeks the appearance of wrinkles is reduced. New wrinkle lift from Synergy, formulated and controlled by Laboratoire Garnier Paris.
Is this your bathroom in the morning?
Oh!
Now, add another with Sunnyflow pumping systems. For more details, call free phone Sunnyflow.
You know, the guy who knew everything. Chimney from hell.
Chimney you, that was him.
Took 2 jobs in the same day. Rebuild the chimney, rewire another house. So they had to be fast, right?
Yeah. We drive down this corner and we see him climbing up this ladder, 45-foot ladder on the roof. He says to me, what's he got under his arm? It's a roll of wallpaper, and he gets up there, it's got brick pattern on it. He wraps it round the chimney, and he sticks a little line of mastic down the side of it. Sorted.
I tell you, mate, 30 years in the game, they'll believe anything.
Yeah.
If it's not poking them in the eye, they don't notice it.
AA Homeline is a new service from the AA that vets tradespeople for your home. See teletext.
Always at readers' events, women come up to me and say, oh, I didn't expect you to be like that. I don't know whether to be flattered or insulted. Marie Claire is a magazine of contradictions. When we launched in 1988, who would have thought that a fashion magazine would have won the first Amnesty International Award for journalism? I believe there's no subject which is not suitable for a woman's magazine. Every woman should feel great about herself, regardless of her size or shape or nationality. Fashion's about fun, fashion's about enjoying yourself, fashion's about making you feel confident. What can I say? The shoe of the season. I should have fashion victim tattooed on my forehead. I'm a creature of impulse. I like to make quick decisions, and American Express enables me to do just that. It's given me freedom and security.
You can use the American Express card to take out Marie Claire for a year, or to take yourself out shopping.
Welcome back, though if flying makes you nervous, then perhaps this item isn't for you. An official report today describes how an Airbus full of holidaymakers got into the air, only for the crew to discover too late that they could only turn the plane one way, to the right. They got it down safely, but shared the blame for the emergency with the ground maintenance crew. Ania Sitharam has the full story.
The Department of Transport report says a complex chain of human errors forced the pilots of the Excalibur Airways Airbus like this one to abort the flight. British Airways maintenance engineers had left the spoilers on the right wing, which controlled turning, in the wrong position. The pilots failed to notice. The Airbus, on its way to Portugal, began to roll to the right on takeoff. To regain control, the pilot had to force his joystick hard to the left, only just managing to keep the plane level. As the plane climbed, the computer sounded a warning. The pilot couldn't turn left, so he plotted a route back to the airport involving only right turns. 37 minutes after takeoff, the Airbus landed back at Gatwick.
This aircraft, the A320, is fitted with spoiler devices which operate on both wings, which assist the aircraft to turn in reaction to inputs from the pilot via his control column. In this case, the spoilers on this wing, the starboard wing, some of them were inoperative in the maintenance mode and therefore did not react to the pilot's movements of his control column.
Experts say it was through the pilot's skill that the plane returned safely. The report says the engineers didn't follow strict maintenance rules.
They reckoned that they didn't need to have to do that in this particular case. It was quite clear that they thought that they were good engineers and they actually knew what they were doing without the book. That is not the case with modern aeroplanes.
Tonight, British Airways said it had sent the engineers for retraining, but the report calls on the Civil Aviation Authority to conduct a wider review of maintenance procedures.
The death of a little girl in the Glasgow Royal Hospital for sick children is still surrounded by mystery. Her parents want to know how she got unnoticed to the toilet where she was found unconscious. Precisely what she died of is also still unknown. Glenn O'Glaser reports from Glasgow.
Christina Murtagh, filmed on this family video just 3 weeks ago, was admitted to hospital for observation for breathing problems. On Sunday, nurses found the toddler unconscious in a toilet cubicle. She died a few hours later. Her father, John, and mother, Marie, who stayed in hospital with Christine, blame poor nursing supervision.
How she found in her toilet, how she wasn't supervised, and how we were treated.
The hospital should have still supervised Christina.
And they claim 3 days earlier, Marie was confronted by an intruder.
Some man walked in with a white coat with no badge or nothing and stood there and looked at my wife. My wife was screaming, get out the toilet. He didn't answer, he just looked at her.
The hospital has held its own internal...
If I ran my business the way you run this...